So, a pleasant day everyone. It's me, Irish Joy Laxina, all the way from BSE English 1A. Nativization of English appears to be the most obvious at the phonological level. The phonological features of language are reflected into two aspects. So first is the segmental phoneme and the suprasegmental phoneme. So far, most phonological studies on Chinese influence on English are mainly limited to the aspect of suprasegmental phoneme. And the locality in this aspect is classified by some scholars as Chinglish, for a reason that mistakes in segmental phoneme can mostly be overcome. So let's talk about Chinese and their features and why they differ into standard English. Different English varieties have their own suprasegmental and their principal features that lie in syllable, stress, tone, and intonation, which will naturally express the speaker's national identity. So, we can take film or movie as an example. As long as there are Chinese movies that already adapt into English. So, did you know that only by hearing, Chinese audience can understand or recognize whether it is original Chinese film or not? So, from an English or Japanese, even though all the film dubbers are native Chinese. So, why is this so? It is because the film dubbers are not speaking Chinese as what native people do. Particularly, the English speakers dubbers from English did some changes deliberately in syllable, stress, tone, and intonation in order to produce a special flavor in line with the foreign atmosphere. In film, same goes also with Chinese. Film dubbed into Chinese. To preserve the original Chinese flavor, the use of sound patterns of China English. That seems to be a wise choice. So, in short, native of English can easily discern that it is from China even without taking a glimpse of the screen. So, the first unique features in Chinese is that they varied in terms of syllable, tone, stress, and intonation. Chinese has a different rhythm compared to English speakers because Chinese tend to stress more syllables in a sentence compared to English speakers. However, in English, they only stress the important details or words. So, second, they disregard the final consonants. Chinese speakers naturally has their own Chinese accent. Languages have restrictions on where consonants can be, how many consonants are allowed to be together in a word. But in some cases, Chinese languages usually don't have consonants at the end of the words on multiple consonants together. As what I've seen in the video, Chinese unconsciously restrict himself in using consonants at the end of an English words as he deleted and avoid using multiple consonants. Lastly, in Chinese, voice sounds at the end of the words become voiceless. So when a Chinese person speaks in English, sounds at the end of the words tend to become voiceless. Now let's proceed to the level of vocabulary in Chinese. So we all know that language can hardly survive in isolation because certain exchange and borrowing of words are happening globally due to the several reasons such as colonization, migration, trading, or art exchanges. So in that case, if there is language contact between each countries, surely it has words borrowing or what we call loan words. it is said that language are not sufficient unto themselves. Therefore, linguistic borrowing must be considered inevitable necessity. So first, English has borrowed large amount of words from Chinese, and some of them become part and parcel of the English language. Second, there are 65 words derived from silk such as silky, silk, silkness, silken that reflects the high level of silk culture in ancient China. There are also Chinese words that are introduced into English and now it's widely used, and those are chopstick, chowmen, kaolin, sampan, and koutou. With the fast increasing of publicity and exchange of words in outside world, China has been greatly affecting world in many fields. In this case, more Chinese words and phrases are expressing peculiar things in Chinese culture that have been translated into English and become loanwords in English. So, Chinese differs also in the level of sentences. China English at the syntactic level bears the influence from the way of Chinese thinking and the Chinese sentence. So according to Giadilin, the differences between the way of thinking in English and the Chinese are clearly manifested in their language linear. He also proved the acceptability of China English under the situation of nativization of English in China. So first, it is typical for Chinese in omitting subject in the sentences. So first, very glad to see you. Long time no see. Second, China English always use repetition to reinforce idea. Third is parallel structure, also characterized by conciseness, rhythm, and symmetric beauty. Lastly is the incarnation of using the words like should, must, let is also considered another trait of Chinese English. After analyzing the features of China English at the sentence level, we can see that distinctive sentences structures benefit English in terms of various ways of delicate expression. They become useful and valuable stylistic devices in English. So let's proceed to the last features of Chinese English, which is level of discourse or text. Text or discourse style of language is largely determined by the world outlook, philosophical view, value system, and thinking patterns which vary from nation to nation. So, as a cultural envoy, China English with its characteristics at the text and discourse level plays an irreplaceable role in spreading and promoting Chinese culture to the world. So the first feature is Chinese can communicate less directly and less explicitly. Chinese communicate in a manner conducive to what intercultural pundits call an implicit social environment. In such groups, much of what needs to be communicated can simply be implied rather than stated explicitly. Chinese are inclined in using big and very formal words. Third is Chinese thinking pattern is leisurely in planned, orderly, and unhurried way. Chinese is well organized and also very hands-on in writing. They find delight and satisfaction in writing from quiet and tranquil life. Lastly is roundabout way of expressing their ideas. By describing sceneries, they gradually show their feelings and unveil the themes of their writing. So, perfect example for this is Confucius, who is known as a famous philosopher as he viewed the real beauty of something that can't be seen. Reading Chinese text, the Westerners likely to have a better understanding of the Oriental style of living and working. So therefore, Chinese English produces an effective way of cross-cultural communication and comprehension that definitely raise the level of human beings' perception. So that's all for today's discussion. Thank you for listening and goodbye.